This video is intended only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. I remember when I was around the age of 4, my family and I lived in a small apartment on the 4th floor, which was pretty high. The apartment was full of stupid people like drug addicts and other low-life criminals. There were no other kids in the unit, so I mainly spent my time playing with toys. One night, after my mother turned off the lights for bedtime and the whole family went to sleep, I woke up in the middle of the night around 2 a.m. I was pretty thirsty, so I was going to grab a cup of water from the kitchen, but as I was pulling off the blanket, I heard noises coming from the other side of the house. Being a stupid toddler, I didn't think anything of it, so I got up and walked out of my room. The moon was lighting up the room through the open sliding door to the veranda, but then I came to the terrifying realization that the sliding door was supposed to be closed. I knew this because I was the one who closed it before bed. But at that moment, I heard the noises again, and they were coming from the kitchen. I put 2 and 2 together and realized that someone was in the home. I tried tiptoeing to my parents' room, but then I looked behind me, and what I saw scared me. It was a man in a costume. He looked at me and grabbed me. He was pulling my hair and putting his hand on my mouth, but I broke out of his grip and ran to my mother's room. I was too scared to say anything. The next morning I told my mother everything, but she told me it was all just a wild nightmare. I tried to tell my dad, but he said the same. Only I know what happened, but no one believes me. I will never forget that sack he wore over his head, and the thing that still bothers me is how did he manage to get to the 4th floor? The door was locked and so were the windows. So did he climb the entire building? And if he did, why me? So at this time I was a 16-year-old female, and since I didn't have a job, I babysat kids. I was babysitting 7 kids from different families. I was also watching 3 of my brothers, making 10 kids total. It was snack time for the kids, so I went to go get something for them to eat. I finished preparing the last meal when this shady-looking man approached the house. I told the kids to go in another room and hide. I had a small pocket knife and my phone, ready to protect the kids at all costs. I witnessed the guy try the doors and the windows. I called a neighbor. No answer. I went to the oldest kid, who was 13, and told her that if anything happened, to sneak out the back door. This kid was pretty understanding and not questioning for a teen. I saw the front door lock jiggling. I told her to gather up the kids and to run to the neighbor's house to get help. The front door opened as the last 2 kids exited. The man asked in a scruffy voice where the kids were. I tried to play dumb, but he was not buying it. He told me he would shoot me if I didn't show him where the kids had gone. I slowly pulled the knife out of my pocket and stabbed him through the arm with it. I was not letting him get to the kids. He took a gun out and shot at me, which he missed by a lot due to the chunk I had taken out of his arm. I grabbed ropes that were on a desk nearby and tackled him to the ground. I tied him to the support beam and ran out the back door. I found the kids with at least 10 neighbors because they split up. The cops arrived, and it turns out the man was a murderer that they couldn't find. The cop told me that if it wasn't for my sharp eyes and quick actions, we all would have died. I thank that oldest kid for listening to me. Even though I got hurt, I knew the kids were all right. The parents even paid me extra for risking my life to save the kids. I live in a fairly secure area and have 2 dogs. One is a large Doberman and the other is a poodle. I was home alone as my parents were out for the weekend. Our dogs bark a lot as they are very protective. The neighbors hated when the dogs barked, and we would often get notes telling us to keep the dogs quiet. One note was even threatening, saying that they would hurt the dog if it wouldn't be quiet. So before this incident, my parents had taken the dogs to the kennel to avoid any complications. I was home alone playing video games and watching movies for the weekend. It was the night after they had left, and I was playing a video game. I think it was Rainbow Six Siege. I was playing with a few friends and I had my microphone on. I was playing with my window open, and my friends kept telling me to stop making a squeaky sound. I questioned what they meant, and my friends said that it was a loud, squeaky banging. I removed my headphones, and that was when I heard it, the sound of something slamming into the gate. I peered out, and it was a tall, stocky man with a black hood on, looking down, slamming his body into the fence. As the fence was weak, the wood was splitting. I decided to call the police and then my parents, but decided to stay near the window, still watching the man. I was talking to the 911 operator. The operator told me to lock myself in a room, get out of sight, and that a police officer was on the way. But curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to continue watching the man. He finally broke the wooden gate off its hinges, but he didn't enter. He strapped something around his shoulder, and upon further inspection, I saw it was a hunting rifle strapped to his back. That's when I went and hid underneath the bed and listened out for anything until a loud shatter broke the silence, which was the back door smashing, followed by footsteps entering the house. The intruder sounded like he was searching for something. He was creeping up the stairs until he heard the sound of the police sirens. The sound of police sirens flooded my ears, and I made the stupid decision of bolting, trying to escape the house. I started to get to the stairs and turned the corner and was greeted by the large man. The man gripped my neck as the police sirens got louder and the police started knocking on the door. I was quickly losing breath from the man strangling me, and the cloth covering his face slipped down to reveal my neighbor. Nearly out of breath, I was able to break free. He gripped his rifle and aimed it at me and pulled the trigger, but it didn't fire. The dumbass left the safety on. The police kicked in the door, ran up the stairs, and tased the man. The man was found and charged with breaking and entering and carrying an unlicensed firearm. I'm thankful that the safety was on. This could have ended very badly. I later went to my Xbox and told my friends what had happened and that I almost died. They were very concerned. I'll start by saying I am a very paranoid person, and the fact that I am alone home all day, I do online classes, definitely doesn't help. So I started online school this year, and I'm not going to lie, it's pretty boring, but I don't mind at all, really. Still, since I was a small child, I have always been afraid of my house. I think it was built in the 50s, so it's not really new, and it's rather broken down. Our whole basement is the size of our house, and that's where it all starts. I've always had a fear of our basement, and it wasn't just that instinct of fear everyone has either. I just knew it was much more than that. Our basement has no door, just a long, echoing stairway that you walk down. My mom sleeps down there in her room, and the laundry room is down there as well, so it's not like I'm a complete fucking baby about it. When I walk up the stairs, I see shadows darting around, and sometimes when I'm laying in my mom's bed, I hear footsteps coming from nearby rooms. I know that's not really a big deal for a horror fanatic, but it's a nightmare for an extremely paranoid person such as myself. Just as I started school this year, the hall light outside of my room started going on and off, even though we checked its fuse and changed the bulbs, and nothing's wrong with it. None of this was happening until April 2nd, the day after my birthday, when a friend and I played with a Ouija board. I did everything properly and said all the right things, mind you. I had been researching to do it right for the past 2 years. It worked, and not too many problems came with it, until August of 2016, when everything went downhill. Our garage door leads to our yard. It's in our kitchen, and I tend to hear it open a lot, and it really fucks me up. Lately, after hearing it open so many times, I've been locking it during the day before I go to bed. Also, nobody, not even me or my family, has a key to it. This door is extremely loud and creaky, so you know when it's open. I have 2 Great Danes, and we usually sit in my living room while I work. You can't see the kitchen or anything in the rest of the house for the angle of the room, so for safety and out of paranoia, I began keeping a taser on me at all times. I love it. I started doing this because I would always hear the back door pop open, and then I would proceed to hear footsteps through my house. I would be frozen in fear and not knowing what to do at that point. I would just go and lock the door and stand there. I know it's stupid, but I would always hear the footsteps and the door to my yard open and close as if someone was leaving. One specific time, it was around noon, and I remember thinking my dad was home because I heard the footsteps and I yelled, "Hi, Dad!" as my dogs went absolutely fucking apeshit. I then heard running and the door slam as if somebody realized I was here and ran out. Then, a few weeks ago, unknown to my knowledge, my dad had come home for lunch around 1 o'clock and came in shouting at me that he had just caught a man running out of the backyard when he pulled up. I remember when he said that, I just froze, about to fucking shit myself, and I just shut down. There had been somebody in my house all those times. So man in my house, don't come back. This story happened when I was 12 years old. I'm female and I'm now 25. The story I'm about to tell you might not be scary to most, but for me and my parents, it was. I remember it was a Saturday night, around 9 or 10 p.m. during summertime. I owned one dog at the time. His name was Benny. My parents decided that night they felt like going for a walk around the block, walking Benny, and asked me whether I wanted to join them. I said no because I wanted to play PWI, Perfect World International, on my PC. My parents were okay with leaving me alone since the walk wouldn't take longer than 30 minutes tops. As my parents got dressed to leave the house, I logged into PWI and looked around in my guild and global chat to see if anyone was on. For some reason, no one was on, so I decided to join my parents. I got dressed, I put Benny on his leash, and we all left. I'd like to mention that I live in an apartment building that had 10 floors, and we lived on the very first floor. Not sure how to explain, but you have the basement of the building and then the first row of apartments. Basically, you enter the building and are already facing apartments. I lived in the very first one. I remember always hating that because whoever would pass by our door, we would hear them at any time of day or night. It was somewhat eerie to live on floor 0. Anyway, we leave the house and my dad closes the door. We had 3 keyholes and a steel bar that would lock the door from the inside. The bar covered half of the door. Precautions were my father's obsession. We exit the building and enjoy our walk. After 15 minutes, we realized that the wind had changed from a warm summer wind to an incoming storm wind. My mom makes the call to go back home as Benny already did his duties, so we all return. We open the building door, climb the 5 stairs to our door, and attempt to open it. My father does the following: unlocks the first 3 locks, and then attempts to unlock the metal bar that holds the door locked. At that moment, my father pauses, turns around at us with the most serious face I've ever seen on him, and whispers to us to call the police and ring the neighbor's door. My mom goes to the second apartment and the neighbor, who I'll call Ted, comes out asking my father what happened. My dad whispered to him, covering the see-through hole of the door.
Someone is in our house. He or she are holding the door. Please stay here with my family and attempt to open it. I will be back.
After saying that, I see my father rush, all by himself, around the building in the dark. I say dark because we didn't have a streetlight on the side of our apartment facing the block garden. My dad disappears into the darkness. I go outside too, not following him too much, but only to hear if he's in trouble. He's my dad. Don't judge me. As soon as I get outside, I hear him shout,
"Hey, you! Come back! Who the hell do you think you are? I called the police!"
At the same time I heard him shout, I looked at Ted, who manages to open the door and enter the house. I go after them and enter my house. It no longer felt like my house. In just 15 minutes while we were walking, the home invaders made a complete mess of our house. All our shelves and wardrobes were pulled out, our clothes scattered all over the house. Benny's dry food was all over the floor, indicating they must have tripped on his bowls, probably not knowing that we owned a dog. But what scared me the most was how organized they were. I say they because after seeing the disaster that was left behind, we knew it was impossible for just one person to hold the door, steal, and organize what they would want to take with them. I say organized because the thieves put in our living room, all packed and ready, what they wanted but couldn't steal. On the couch they placed our laptops, one of our TVs, my father's collection of coins, our phones, chargers, wallets, and even my father's camera. He's a photographer, and that week he had to attend a wedding. They didn't have time to steal all of that, so they just settled with some of my mom's jewelry and some pocket money. After seeing this, in my silly child mind, I rushed to my room to check my piggy bank. I always saved up money from whatever chores I did. It wasn't much, but it was my work and savings, and at the time, I thought they stole it too. When I enter my room, I see the metal bars covering my window are cut open and my window is broken. This is how they entered, through my room. My room is the only room facing the side of the building and the one most secluded from views. Needless to say, I never felt safe in my own room, in which I had to live in for the next 10 years of my life until I moved out with my fiancé. The police arrive, they start throwing white dust, I have no idea what that is, even till this day, all over our house to find fingerprints. They take pictures, they take our statements, analyze my room and window. They were unable to catch the home invaders, but were able to tell us that this invasion was not the only one in our neighborhood. During that month, another 4 houses were broken into, one of them being a home of a cop. They told us that the invaders analyzed their victims, learned their schedules, and even knew where the children's rooms were, as they seemed to be entering the houses through the children's windows. All the families affected by them had children. They did not expect us to be back that soon and panicked. Hence, one of them was holding the door with his body so that the others could flee. The person after which my dad was shouting was probably the one holding the door and escaping last through my broken window. I don't know what could have happened if I didn't change my mind and give up on raiding for gears in PWI. I probably would have come face to face with these invaders. I'm happy I didn't, and I hope to God I never meet with them again. Period.